Next, we are going to invite Timmerman to speak, and she is one of the students, actually soon to be graduate of the Young Women's Leadership Academy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ty Timmerman. As a member of the Guyanese Girls Rock Foundation Young Women's Leadership Academy for 3 years, it gives me great pleasure introducing our Queensborough president, Rhonda Binda. Ms. Binda was raised in Queens with a passion for social justice. During her youth, she successfully lobbied the New York City Council for New York Public Interest Group, NYPIRG. Her determination and grit led NYPIRG to shut down the Fresh Kills landfill. As an attorney, Ms. Binda represented wrongfully convicted clients before the U.S. Immigration Court of Appeals. Additionally, she served under both the Obama, Biden, and Clinton Gore administrations as a United States diplomat. Subsequently, Ms. Binda's leadership as executive director for the Jamaica Business Improvement District led to the equitable distribution of resources in Jamaica, Queens, giving it its recognition as the #1 neighborhood in the city. Rhonda Binda continues to serve her community with urgency and desire as the vice president of Guyanese Girls Rock Foundation in the Young Women's Leadership Academy, the chairwoman of South Asian American Voice, the New York Hall of Science and Positive Women United. Please join me in welcoming our Deputy President for the Borough of Queens, Rhonda Binda.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Ty. It's so great to see you. Thank you, Dr. Gregory. I will share my screen now, if that's okay. I have a short presentation to go along. All right. Is this working for everybody that can see? Great. So good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to be here. I am serving as your Deputy Queensborough President on behalf of our Borough President, Donovan Richards Jr., and it's my pleasure to be able to see all of your beautiful faces that are here, to be with the next generation of leaders. I first want to start by thanking Cloyette and the Guyanese Girls Rock Foundation, where, as you know, I was honored to be vice president in the past few years before joining Borough Hall. It really has been such a pleasure and honor to be able to work with so many incredible people, especially the young women, and see them grow and flourish. And some of them now are in college and doing their thing. And so I am so honored that I'm invited to join the program to support girls here in Queens and beyond. So thank you so much for us organizing this very empowering day. As a woman in government and the first Guyanese woman to be the Queens Deputy Borough President, I can tell you that these discussions are of immeasurable importance. As a daughter of immigrants, as you can see, this is my family pretty much looking fresh off the boat, a few decades ago. I acknowledge the sacrifices. You can see my grandmother's in the middle, my grandfather's at the end, holding on to a bunch of kids. And I know that the sacrifices that they made and my ancestors, I think my great-grand is on the other end, that they had left their homelands to come here to the US to allow a path for us to be able to be here today. Growing up, it was a challenge to make ends meet, but it was the educational opportunities that were provided here that became a portal to make me the person and the woman that I am today. I attended public schools in District 29 in Queens, and because of my academic potential, recruited for prestigious scholarship programs that afforded me pathways to places like the Lawrenceville School, which was a prep school in New Jersey, Duke University, Georgetown University, and Oxford University in England. This has given me an opportunity to travel to over 6 continents and to 6 continents and over 40 countries and hundreds of cities, having a chance before having the opportunity to work at Queensborough Hall to already have worked with hundreds of cities and states, and in particular, the governors and mayors of these countries. So today, in 2021, and despite the regressive leadership that we have seen in the past, I would say, several years at the federal level, there still has been enormous potential for young women to thrive in leadership positions, not just in government, but in so many places more than you could ever dream or think of. For some of you, you're going to be entering the world of, like I said, following my footsteps. Hopefully some of you, politics and government, you see our vice president there in one of the corner photographs. But for others, you'll be champions of business, of art, of medicine, of entertainment, of community empowerment, or education. So I would say that following your passion, whatever that passion may be, is the best way for you to find your strength and find your voice and project it for the world to hear. And something that I would say about as you go through your career, what you should be looking to do is following that passion that allows you to use your voice in that career. So it might be, as a student now, being involved in certain activities at school that allow you to use your voice about what you're passionate about today. It might be certain groups of friends that you're allowed to be creative with and to discuss the topics that are top of mind for you. In 10 years from now and in 20 years from now, you're going to see that your career and your path may change as you follow your voice and follow your passion. And that's okay. It has been an interesting time for women in particular, specifically women of color. There are women like Alicia Garcia, Tarana Burke, Tina Chen, who built social movements that have become household names like Me Too, Time's Up, and Black Lives Matter. These movements are building blocks for you, for the upcoming generations of leaders, to continue to lift the veil on long accepted injustices and create and shape a better future that centers your voices. So use the momentum that we've seen in the past few years, take it to your advantage, and know that you're standing on the shoulders of those amazing giants as you reach for the stars. Many of you have already planted your seeds of leadership by creating change right in your homes, in your friend circles, in your communities, and in yourselves. And I invite you to stop for a second and take a look at the virtual room of leaders around you here. As women of color, when we uphold each other, you're really also upholding yourself. When I started my political career, it was a long journey before I felt that I could even use my voice for women. I just decided to start where I was and just create a path somehow for myself. And so one of the first organizations that I worked for was New York's Public Interest Research Group. And we did a lot of advocacy, knocking on doors, talking to city council, and eventually becoming successful at closing what was at the time the largest toxic environmental dump in the United States. It's actually, we used to be in Staten Island, and it's called Fresh Kills. When I saw that happened, actually shutting it down, it was a major inspiration for me to continue with advocacy work. And so I decided eventually to go to law school. And when I was there, you have your normal clients that you're assigned to in your practice area. But there was a pro bono committee that allows you to represent indigent clients. And what I decided to do after 9/11 is work with clients that were detained wrongfully and help release the detainees by arguing for them in U.S. Immigrant Court of Appeals. Back at the office, I even asked to switch practice groups because once I saw that I liked the advocacy work more, and I moved to the technology group where we work to bring more competition and more technology resources to communities all across the country. So these have been really interesting for me as I've learned to use my voice experiences where I was, not necessarily yet for women or for myself, but I saw issues that I wanted to tackle, and then I was able to align my career with the ability to use my voice for advocacy. And in those years, I was able to also have a chance to work for two presidents, President Clinton and President Obama. Eventually, especially after working with all of the local leaders across the country and across the world, I decided I wanted to come back to my hometown and make an impact here. And so I was so inspired by all the things that Queens have to offer. We are the most diverse place in the world. We have the most amazing people because we have people from all 190 countries living right here. And Jamaica is one of the most diverse zip codes where I grew up. So it's always vibrant, it's always exciting, but we needed some improvements all around. And so the advocacy that was done for my own neighborhood led us to winning, in combination with the amazing people you see in this photo, amazing leaders like Miss Adrienne Adams, our council member, who at the time was a community board chair. So really taking charge and bringing the community voices together. We advocated and won the first ever downtown revitalization award from Governor Cuomo. And it's a very envious amount of $10 million that still, I was just in Long Island City yesterday, and still so many communities are competing, but because we worked together, were able to bring home the bacon for my own community, which was, tremendously rewarding. And we were also at that time named the #1 neighborhood in New York. I think there are about 400 neighborhoods all across New York City. So that was a big honor. We were named #1 by Street Easy. And that's when I had a chance to also meet the fabulous, wonderful, amazing Coyette, who had already been doing advocacy work for our Guyanese women and women of color. And we were able to collaborate to work together in those years following. So this was became really a mark for me of high achievement because it was personal. And also I was able to take this model to other communities, take it back out and work with other people around the country after leaving the Jamaica Business Improvement District, and became a world-renowned People's Choice leader for building smart and connected communities. And so this led me to where I am here. Everybody's journey is unique. And it was sometimes hard to find what leadership and representation looked like when I first started. Now, as you can see, we have a very diverse leadership here in Queens. And while there have been over time more women in leadership, there was not always the power dynamics that has shifted enough to level the playing field. And that's why now that I'm at Queensborough Hall, we've done a couple things to really work on that, and working on the policy level. So one of the things that we've done is create a gender justice unit. A shout out to Ariella Davidoff, who is amazing and has had studied women's studies in college. She was working in education in our office. And when we decided, the borough president decided we need to have this office, this effort, we looked around the office and she had already studied this. She was interested in working on this, but there was not an avenue for her yet to use her voice for her passion. So we were very happy to be able to marry that. And we're having quarterly events, as well as we just held an event during Pride Month. We had an internal training about gender norms. And we launched with, I think we had our councilwomen and congresswomen join us in March when we actually launched the office. So it's been a major achievement. The other thing that we have done, and I'm doing to give voice to youth, is creating a youth engagement initiative. And actually next month, to give a little bit of a plug, and we hope that you can all collaborate and join, we'll be having our first teen summit that will be in person at Queens Borough Hall, and that's led by the amazing Ludi Thenor. So we're all familiar with the quote from the great Mahatma Gandhi, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." But remember, no one knows better than you about how to elevate your communities and yourself. So as you move forward today and beyond, I encourage you and dare you to question, what change would you like to see in the world? How can you be the pioneer of that change? So please think about that today and write that down. When we talk about leadership and change, we could think back to the most recent presidential elections, the election of Vice President Kamala Harris as an epic change. As Vice President Harris has said, there will be people who say to you, "You're out of your lane." They're burdened by only having the capacity to see what has been already instead of what can be. So don't let that burden you, she says. She is the first African American and South Asian and woman vice president in the United States. And I really think that this is a major inflection point for all of us, again, to ride the momentum of the success that we've been seeing over the years. She also says that she mentors a lot of people. And what you'll often find is you're the only one who looks like you in that room, be it at a conference table or in a meeting or wherever you are. But the thing that she wants us to remember is that you're actually not alone in that room. We are all in the room together in spirit, expecting you to use that voice and use it with pride and use it in a way that represents all of those in the room, but who are not physically there. It's part of the way that Vice President Harris approaches her work, and she always has. And that's something that I've been trying to do in my new role as well. And so I really believe that together as women, women of all complexions, women of all faiths, we can make a big difference and break that glass ceiling that's hovering above us. And we can strive and continue to achieve. Together, we'll be in the fast lane. And together, we'll change the portrait of leadership in America and around the globe. So before I leave, I wanted to leave you a few practical tips that I have used. And I think that it's never too early to start, that have been very helpful in getting leadership positions as well as all throughout that career. So first, I would say that networking, like what you're doing here today, is very important. For example, if there are people that you see that you'd like to keep in touch with, that are even in the Zoom chat room or on Facebook, look them up. Find them on LinkedIn. You should be creating also a LinkedIn profile yourself. I'm sure you're familiar with Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat and Facebook, but for your career, as you step into that next phase in your life, LinkedIn is very important. And the other thing about LinkedIn that's different than the other social media platforms is that they have not yet altered their algorithm. So you're getting bang for your buck. Whereas in some of the others, they're altering it based on advertising and other factors. They have not yet done that. And so you'll notice immediately if you post on LinkedIn, you'll have multiples of more views than you would on other platforms that follow that follow different algorithms. I'm not saying they won't change, but right now is your opportunity to take advantage for free. Number two is, I would say, don't be afraid to seek the mentorships that we all need, right? Rather than you going through all the steps that I have gone through, it's good to talk to people who were ahead of you. Now that in your generation, there's so many more people that are ahead of you, that look like you, that have same experiences you, that you can get advice from. And what you should do is look for people specifically in your field, reach out to them. Don't be afraid to approach them about establishing a mentor-mentee relationship. And remember that these mentor-mentee relationships are a two-way street. They're mutually beneficial. Mentors can learn a lot from you. So think about also what you can bring to the table. And remember that they're busy. So don't take it personally if they're not able to necessarily get back to you immediately, but be aggressive, take the initiative, and make it easy for your prospective mentor to set something up on a regular basis by setting up the calendar invite, and sending them reminders, and being mindful of their time. So the step above that is also pursuing what we call sponsorships. And I'm not sure if you have heard of this term yet, but sponsorships are mentors that go that extra mile. They'll open their own network for you to find a scholarship, to find an internship, to have another conversation with more people in that industry, that will help you find a job specifically. They're people who will open up their circle when they see and find your potential. And I'll give you one example of my first job after finishing an internship in Washington, D.C. I really wanted to take a weekend off and volunteer for a campaign in New Hampshire. It was the first presidential primary back in those days. I think South Carolina and Iowa are now ahead, but it used to be in New Hampshire. And so it was kind of like the Super Bowl of politics. And there was a bus that was leaving from Washington to New Hampshire. And I think it was probably about $60 or $70 to get on that bus. And the volunteers, would go up for the weekend and come back. They would also help with finding a place to stay. At that time, it was the floor of the YMCA, but we were all fired up and we're heading up there to volunteer. But except that I didn't have the funds. I had just started working, and after an unpaid internship, and I hadn't gotten my first check yet. And so I was feeling kind of down, and there was a friendly lady, woman of color, that I, had chatted with a few times, and I went into her office and I told her how I was interested in doing this, and I was embarrassed and didn't want to tell her that I didn't have the money to go. She kind of picked up on it. She had already started to fall into the mentor relationship with me at the office. And she said, Rhonda, do you have the money to go on this trip? And I said, no, I don't. That's one of the reasons why I'm not going. But of course, I'd really love to go. And she lent me the $70. I think she maybe gave me a few extra so that I can, buy food, things like that, for incidentals. And it was an amazing trip. It really changed my life. I was able to go, knock on doors. And on election night, someone actually pulled me to go on stage to stand behind the winner of that race. At the time, it was Vice President Al Gore who won that primary. And I was on the cover of all the papers and news coverage because he wasn't supposed to win, but the volunteers headed up there and we got him over the top. It was such a pivotal experience for me to really be part of that campaign, even though at the end he did not win. That moment of being in New Hampshire and being around, and I wouldn't have happened if I hadn't developed a relationship with this amazing woman who I still keep in touch with now on social media, and she decided to sponsor my trip. And so don't stop your relationship at the mentor. Look for people who will always go that extra mile to really vouch for you and support you. Sometimes that means financially. And I would say that my last tip for today, before you start your amazing program, is that you cannot pour from an empty cup. We all have big, big dreams. But remember that if you're not taking care of yourself first, you're going to eventually hit a wall when you're trying to do your big projects and you're doing your big projects working in your community. So you have to make sure that you work to maintain your health. You work to maintain your spirituality, whatever that means, whether that's your faith, or whether that is a meditation, and wellness practices, so that you can keep your spirits, your clarity of mind, your energy up, so that you can be the best for others. And so, girls, go get it. I am so excited for everything that you have in store today and to listen to the other speakers. So I'm going to wrap it up here, but I wanted to say thank you so much on behalf of Queensborough President Donovan Richards for allowing us to speak with you today, and have a great day and God bless.
Okay. Hi, Miss Rhonda Binda. We are so excited to have you. We actually have some questions in the Q&A.
Oh, great.
Um, yeah, that people have for you. So my first question is, they want to know if there were any clubs you were a part of in high school and if you were on a debate team.
Oh, that's such a fun question. Thank you so much. So I did get involved with a lot of organizations in high school. Um, and then I would say that my girlfriends and we sort of started our own sort of, I guess it would be considered like a sorority now. um, but there were clubs that I got involved in, some of the multicultural organizations. So even though I'm not from a Latin background, I was Latinx background. I did get involved because I was studying Spanish, and I also got involved with the multicultural. So I became the president of the multicultural organization. So this included all the different ethnic groups, and we called it Spectrum. It included also the LGBTQ groups, any other affinity groups, and we kind of were able to speak with one voice. I did eventually in college join a sorority, but my girlfriends and we had formed our own sort of informal group that we were so proud of. The theater group, I used to work behind the scenes. The people that wear all black and are moving boxes, and just because I enjoyed theater growing up in New York, and sometimes I would volunteer as an usher so I can go see them for free. So it was like whatever my passions were, but I was always very passionate about advocating for people of color. And at the time, this was so long ago now, there were not a lot of women's organizations, which now thinking back, that's why my girlfriends and I kind of formed our own, our own. So this was kind of probably the precursor. As far as debate, believe it or not, I was, growing up in a, traditional kind of South Asian household. I was a little shy. When I got on, when we had to, join a protest, or, I was able to, again, use my voice to advocate. But personally, that's something that still I work on, is getting over the, sometimes having some anxiety about debating, especially very personal issues. So I did not join the debate team. Law school wasn't something that I realized that I really wanted to do until I met other lawyers. So sometimes you have to wait to meet the people in the industry that you realize, I realized, I kind of want to be like those people. And that's why networking is so important. And then sometimes you meet people, you think you want to do something, and you have an internship, and then you realize, I remember I interned at ABC News years ago when I was younger. And I realized this is not as glamorous as I thought it would be when you see what happens behind the scenes. So I would encourage you to try it. If you think you're interested, try it now, because you have time on your side to do all the trial and error that you want. Try it all, join the groups, and you'll see you'll probably naturally rise to with in the groups where you're seeing that you can use your voice, and you can align with the passions. You'll naturally rise to leadership. I also was the president of my dorm. I ran against. I went to, as I said, I went away for high school. I never thought that's, I guess, what you consider student government. And I actually, my roommate and I ran against each other.
So
We're
you do
still
have
friends
a little
today.
experience. You do have a little experience in debating. If you're running for an office, you've been doing it long before you got here. I feel like you've answered one of the questions they were asking. What was your strongest inspiration to do all of this? And you mentioned the importance of women's groups, and maybe that the kind of positions you've had before led to where you are now. One last question: what is the greatest accomplishment you hope to achieve in your current position?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that question. Those who know me, as I said, when I was at the law firm, I asked to switch over to work in technology, which eventually I was able to, because I had made it known. At first, there was no room. there was an opportunity that came across that required travel that one of the lawyers did not want. And they remembered that Rhonda, she said she wanted this technology. So one of the things that that I'm working on, and actually if you read Smart Cities Dive on Tuesday, there should be an article about what the borough president is doing regarding technology and infrastructure, is really building out a more modern economy here in Queens that will provide the jobs of the future and prepare our students for all these cool jobs of the future, whether it's making video games or cybersecurity or graphic and digital art. A lot of the economy is moving towards technology. So one of the main things that we're working on is the partnerships between colleges and universities and business for us to really become a hub for technology in Queens. So that's one of my main goals. And Clayette is also our founder. She's also works in tech herself and has engaged the students in Guyanese Girls Rock in a number of amazing programs over the years. So it'd be growing that agenda.
Thank you so much, Deputy Queens Borough President, Ms. Rhonda Binda. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. Enjoyed it. You're an inspiration to so many ladies, as they were saying in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much.